FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
This is Kerry Lutz, and we are back on the Financial Survival Network. And if you're like me, you've had some successes and you've tried to plan for retirement and you've had varying degrees of success, like yours truly, which is why you need to read this book that's going to be coming out shortly, The God-Awful Truth About Retirement by Brandi Jo Newman. She's on with me now to talk about this, and you need to face up to these issues because it really is a brewing crisis. I think there's somewhere around 10,000 baby boomers retiring per week or every other day, something like that. And Brandi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kerry.
Hey, so it's interesting that that you started out, your life was on one path, you're a professional golfer, and here you are now trying to help people really mop up their lives and fix this retirement mess, right?
Yes, sir. It was I think it's a very a natural path with golf being, such a corporate and company spirited sport that it wasn't surprising to me to meet someone who recruited me into the financial services industry, and also who I found in my mentor later on, and that's who I'm working with now. I work with a firm, Personal Economics Group. We're in Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. Golf is I don't want to let people know that I'm playing too much golf, but I play at least twice a week, once with clients, once with family. You hear people all the time say, I found my calling, and I've always loved people. I've always loved helping people. And the financial landscape in today's economy is just such that we're able to help a lot of people, see where they went wrong, see where they were guided wrong, and get them back on the path to prosperity.
Yeah, and when you say get them back on the path and see where they were guided wrong, it's really the financial literacy level in society today. You really never got the course on financial planning and how to set up your affairs properly. All the people I know, and I know a lot of people who were quite successful, really didn't plan properly because really you start doing this stuff in your 20s, right?
Or you should. I mean, I actually like to talk with my parents and my grandparent clients that are out there to get their kids involved, early on, middle school, high school, maybe at the latest. One of the things growing up in my family was I was always involved in our financial decisions and our issues. And we have a multi-generational ranch and business in East Texas, and it was always talked about, that this ranch would be passed down from generation to generation, and why not include them? And it's the same thing, I think, in American households today. It's just not talked about. It's almost like it's taboo. And the education or the level of literacy is we're gaining it from a source that is, I don't want to seem doom and gloom, but we're gaining all of our financial education from the television and financial entertainers. It's not it's not uncommon to think that you're doing the right thing, and then here comes retirement date, and you don't have enough money to survive the rest of your life. And, the thing that my clients want to do, they want to have a better life in retirement. They don't want to have to downshift and downgrade their lifestyle.
Well, it's not such a bad thing to have a simpler life, but yeah, you don't want to wind up having to take the bus instead of having a nice car, right?
Right. And, get to do the things that you've always wanted to do in life. That's the that's kind of the thing with retirement. Now you're actually going to pay yourself to do what you love. And most of my clients are actually already doing what they love. I work a lot with small business owners, entrepreneurs, family-owned businesses, to where there's several generations that are running the company at the same time, and they're already doing what they love. And it's my clientele is just a little bit different, and they are coming to me knowing that there's something different out there than what they're finding from your Main Street financial advisors. There's always something different out there because they've done something different. So that they're in that mindset that doing what everybody else is doing is going to get them the same thing that they've gotten all along. So they're more open to doing something completely different. And that's where the term alternative financial strategies comes from, when I'm talking to prospects and clients.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been doing this for now, Brandi?
I was recruited right off the golf course in Phoenix, Arizona, to work with a couple of gentlemen just in marketing, just in some of their workshops and their seminars that they were doing with Prudential Securities. And that was 1997. So let's do the math real quick on that.
17 years.
Yes. And in the last 5 years, actually 6 years now, I've been working with the Personal Economics Group out of Austin and Dallas.
Wow. So we're talking here, a lot of it is based on life insurance, right?
Now it is. Back when, I always say back in the day, in the late 90s, the dot-com bust was approaching. And, you hear people say this all the time, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. And the way that we were recruited into the industry and the way that we were taught to sell, certain things at a certain time during the week. And on Monday morning, we had a list of stocks or mutual funds that we were supposed to sell to people. And that just didn't seem like it was sales 101. I didn't feel like I was advising anyone. So after the dot-com bust happened, I pretty much took a break from the financial services industry because I was completely disenfranchised. I felt that I wasn't doing my clients right. I wasn't giving them the prosperity and the clarity that they were searching for, because basically I was just trying to sell them something in order for me to make money, not for them to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And
kind of like the Wolf of Wall Street, but
not
on steroids like the Wolf of Wall Street, where they were just out and out for themselves. You really did feel like you were doing something for your clients, but then it all blew up, right?
Right. And, leading them down the path to destruction, to financial, ruin almost, where they just had to reset. And the same thing happened in 2008 with the Great Recession. Everybody knew what was happening at that time. And, people were just going to keep riding the train as long as they could until it went off the tracks. And that's exactly what happened. So you had people that were, planning on retiring in the mid 2000s, and, some of those people are still working today because they lost, 20, 30, 40% of their portfolio. And in today's economic environment, you can't have all of your eggs in one basket. And that means that you can't have all of your eggs in Wall Street being susceptible to people's greed and corruption. You can read books all day long. The Pirates of Manhattan paints a very dismal picture of what it's like to work and to be on Wall Street and what they're doing with your hard-earned money. I'm not a big fan of separating my clients from their money. And when we talk about, mostly in life insurance, the way that I teach my clients how to build their own policies, they get to enjoy their money, as they're saving it, and they actually get to do the things that they want to do with their money instead of separating it from themselves. We're not a 30, 40-year planning time period. We want to talk about what we can do today in order to get most of our money working. Most people don't run their household like a business. And what I try to get most of my clients to do is to run their household the same way that they're running their business. I don't have very many clients that don't own some type of business. So it's very easy for them to, have that shift from, oh, I need to try and capture all of my income first before I separate it from myself, before I invest it in something else. And that's what they're trying to do in their businesses. They're trying to capture as much revenue and cut as much expense as possible. Well, we need to do the same thing in our household and with our families, especially when we're trying to secure college savings for our kids and secure our retirement. That's one of the things that we want to do. We want to try and capture and control as much as our own money as possible.
Yeah, of course. And like you said, diversify, because, you've got to have a certain core savings that you want to be safe no matter what, right?
Yes, and you can do that simply by recycling your own income by using the concept of infinite banking, or bank on yourself, or however it's branded out there. I'm not certified or I'm not an official practitioner of either of those things, but I have worked very closely with Mr. Nelson Nash, and I'm a great fan of his, and I consider him to be one of my mentors. But when you sit down and you start talking about trying to capture as much of your income as possible, most people look up at me and they say the words, "If this is so easy, Brandi Jo, why isn't everyone doing it?" And I say to them, it's not easy, because number one, you have to have some kind of income. You have to have some level of income to where you're able to save as much as possible. And number two, you have to be healthy, because it is tied to life insurance. And along with that, you have to have the discipline to keep doing it over and over and over again. This isn't a transaction where it happens once and you're done. It happens every month or every year or every quarter. And you have to constantly maintain that cash flow in order for this to be a very successful proposition for you.
Right. And yeah, I want to talk more about this because it's always intrigued me. And I know there are certain companies that have been paying dividends on life insurance for well over 100 years. So we'll come back with Brandi Jo Newman on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio.
When your accountant wants tax-free income, this is what he does. Accountants know the law. They also know that any American could legally get paid up to 3 times per month, 100% tax-free. That's 36 tax-free checks each year. It doesn't matter what you make already. This simple strategy could work for anyone. Go to www.irsrevenge2.com to learn how. That's IRS Revenge, the number 2.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And we are back with Brandi Jo Newman on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. So, Brandi, there's certain companies that pay back dividends, although they're not dividends in the strictest sense of the word, and they're tax-free. They help build the value of a policy, and you can borrow on this policy, build cash value, whatever. And, there's all sorts of ways to help build up the value of a policy. And, you can customize these policies, which most insurance agents don't understand. Evidently, they missed that class, right?
Yes, or they were not offered that class.
They weren't offered that class, and
Right.
they just put out a standard cookie cutter policy, never explaining to you the benefits or the flexibility that you can have by minimizing a death benefit and changing different features of the policy, right?
Right. The three features of your typical permanent dividend paying whole life insurance policy is three things. It's base premium, which that's what pays the death benefit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rider called paid up additions rider, and in some companies it's called something else. But basically, that's your own cash that you fund the policy with in a separate. It's not in a separate account, but it goes all to the cash value in that particular policy. And then there is the dividend portion. And the dividend is basically, in the simplest way to say it, is it's a return of premium. It's a return of that base premium that the company did not need in order to run the company and pay the death benefits and to invest in certain joint ventures and other things that they do with their money to make sure that the company can pay the death benefit and also pay you a guaranteed interest rate and also pay you a dividend. So those three things, when you explain this in very short layman's terms to somebody, it's very simple for them to understand why they should be doing it. With me in particular, the way that I've built my policies is I actually want the most death benefit because I'm working with families right now that they're looking up into the future and they know that they're not going to have enough money for retirement. So what we're trying to do is to basically leverage that death benefit that they've put in place by using the concepts of infinite banking and also enjoying a term that I love so much right now, which is uninterrupted compounding growth. So when someone puts their money into these policies and you do it with an appropriate company that gives you the aspects of enjoying uninterrupted compounding growth, you're able to basically turn $1 into $2. Your dollars don't stop working within that policy. Plus, you've borrowed against them, and now they're in some other productive asset. So what I'm trying to do with families today that are looking up and seeing the writing on the wall with retirement, we're able to take the rest of their assets and we're able to spin those down to where they can actually enjoy more income during retirement, have less and less taxes every year because they're eating into the principal. They're not just living off of interest. They're not living off of their own income anymore.
Right.
And when, as Nelson Nash says, when they graduate, they're able to replace that income or those assets tax-free to the next generation or to their spouse that has survived them. And with that particular strategy, we're able to talk to people about having 30 to 50% more income during retirement just by talking about and implementing a strategy, not a product. And that's one of the things that kind of gets people off track. They mistake a product for a strategy. And it's the way that everything fits together within their personal economy that can get them the most amount of money. But you have to be willing to work with someone that talks about concept, but then can also get down to the details and run the personal economy very, very efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, makes sense. And there's certain companies that are much more advantageous for this concept than others, right?
Yes, and there's two distinct different companies out there, and I'm not going to name any companies, but
Sure.
you can Google these two terms. You can Google non-direct recognition and direct recognition. So here's the difference. Non-direct recognition goes back to that term that I just talked about, uninterrupted compounding growth. So when I put my own money into a policy, I've got a death benefit, I've got cash value, and I have the promise of a dividend coming from somewhere. When I go to the company and I say, I want to take a loan out against my policy, because they don't go to the Brandi Jo Newman drawer and pull out my money. The company gives me their money and they place a lien on my cash value.
Right.
And it's a very simple financial transaction. My cash value, my policy is not treated any differently when there's a loan against it, when there's a lien up against my cash value. That's with a non-direct recognition company. With a direct recognition company, and there's a very large one out there right now that's doing this, they treat your policy differently. So you really don't have true uninterrupted compounding growth when you're dealing with that particular company. And there are also some companies out there that are, I don't want to say highly leveraged, but they're at a very high loan rate within their policy holders, and it's putting some pressure on the performance of the company. And, you can Google all the companies and read their annual reports.
Sure.
you do not want to do this concept with any company that's a stock-owned company.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, because
Right.
because they're in it for the shareholders, and when it's not mutual, then the shareholders are not the policy holders.
Right. And they're beholden. Any for-profit company that's owned by the stockholders, they're beholden to the stockholders. And it just so happens that in a mutual life insurance company, the way that those companies are set up, it's held and owned by the policyholders. So the company and its executive management and its board are beholden to the policyholders. So it's a much better relationship in terms of financial success dealing with a mutual life insurance company. It just makes sense. It's just cleaner. It's easier.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So obviously people are going to want to find out more about this, and they're going to want to contact you, and you got a really good website I've been looking at. So where do they go here?
They can do one of two things. They can call me, or they can go to my website and just email me directly from there. My site is brandijonewman.com, and that's Brandi with an I, and it's J-O, and then my last name is Newman, Newman.com. Or they can call me directly. My local phone number is 210-570-7671. And I am always available if I'm available. And I usually try and call people back within 24 hours.
Yeah, well, that's a good policy. I try to do
like
the
to.
same. Sometimes we get so much email on the show, it's not possible to get back to you when I'd like to, but it's not because we haven't read your emails. We read every email. And by the way, follow us on Twitter at Kerry Lutz, and Facebook, Financial Survival Network. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes. Just go to the iTunes store, type in Financial Survival Network, and then you automatically get the show delivered to your iTunes application program on your computer or on your iPhone, and it takes all the guesswork out when a new episode's going to come and all that. And Brandi, just a couple more questions.
Sure.
If you're starting this process of wanting to get into this infinite banking concept, or just wanting to get whole life to protect your family, whatever, what do you want to do first so that you make the right decisions? Where's the best place to get started?
The best place to get started is just have a conversation with me about your current income or your current cash flow. Most everybody who really wants to do this, they already have a number in mind. It's my job to make that number run as efficiently as possible. And usually after the first meeting with me, I take everyone through a little presentation that shows them exactly what uninterrupted compounding growth can give them. And the difference in the dollar amount is significant. And it's very motivating to someone to say, I just have this little bit to do something with. Well, I can show you where you can do almost 90% of your income in the first 5 years. And it's not about, saving the money and sitting the money aside. We're going to work with what you're currently doing. If there's some debt issues, obviously we're going to have a little conversation about that, and go from there. The first step is always asking for help. And you can't do this on your own because you need to be licensed in the state with your life insurance license, but also you need to work with an agent that understands that it's not just about the number, it's about what you want to do with the number. And Kerry, let me just say this real quick. I've had some agents contact me across the country, and their number one question is, what is the big deal? And what's the magic, Brandi Jo? The magic is not the policy. The magic is what you get to do with the policy. The magic is what you bring to the table in your imagination. There's an entire chapter in Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, about, what you get to do. And that's where the magic happens, especially if you're saving this money up, utilizing a policy, and then you're taking that money and putting it into another productive asset that gives you cash flow and gives you more income. I'm a big believer in productive assets. I'm a big believer in mailbox money, passive income. And when you do those two things in concert with what you're doing in your regular job or your regular business, the sky's the limit. And that's really where the magic is.
Right. Makes total sense. It's what you do with it once you have it. And that's always been my problem. But Brandi Jo, thanks so much for being on here and for answering so many questions and explaining the value of this. We really do appreciate it. And you'll see Brandi Jo Newman's link on the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. And don't forget to sign up for your free weekly newsletter. And we'll be getting another one out real soon. So we'll talk with you again soon. Brandi Jo, thanks so much for being on. Hey,
thank you. I appreciate it.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.